Chapter 5. Ancient O Continent. Enai Chao was once again struck dumb. What had he just heard? Just by adding the word ancient in front of the O Continent, the meaning had completely changed. It referred to the O Continent from the 14th to the 16th centuries, which experienced a cultural and intellectual movement. Literature, art, music, and various other domains saw the emergence of countless famous figures. And from then on, the O Continent went from decline to prosperity. There were many royal families in the O Continent, but most no longer exist today, with only 10 remaining to this day, led by the White Country. Each royal family has its own distinct set of etiquettes. It was just an ordinary way of sitting. Yet, he couldn't see anything special about it. How could it possibly be following the etiquette of the O Continentary family? However, Enai Chao would not doubt for Yunshan's words, because that young master had told him, to be a successful profligate son, one must have a comprehensive knowledge of astronomy and geography. Enai Chao always felt something was off about that statement, but couldn't figure out what, so he could only humbly learn from it. It wouldn't be surprising for Shanghai City's #1 profligate to know about the etiquettes of the O Continent's royal families. But what about the little sister from the countryside of the Ying family? Ying Zijin opened her eyes, her expression unchanged. She shifted positions, resting her chin in her hand in a lazy and casual manner. I've read the relevant books. Fu Yunshan leaned back and laughed. That's a hobby quite different from most kids. Ying Zijin didn't respond. In just a few minutes, the dishes were all prepared. There were no private rooms in the Han Pavilion. Each table was separated by azure curtains, with an incense burner placed at the side of each, into which different aromatic herbs could be placed according to patron's preference. There was also a small stone bridge with flowing water alongside, fully displaying an ancient style. Ying Zijin turned her head, her eyes slightly moved. Osmanthus, rosemary, agarwood, lavender, sandalwood, all of these were calming herbs, clearly prepared specifically for her. In just a short time, she felt her spirit had improved significantly. Ying Zijin lowered her eyes. Her first visit to Earth had been in the mid-15th century. She hadn't expected to come back to Earth after all, especially since she was and meant to die, and her survival had not been easy, because her injuries were so severe that her soul had completely shattered. Her consciousness had been asleep for nearly 17 years, fully awakening on the toddy. Upon waking, her situation was somewhat derived. Prolonged anemia had made this body extremely weak. One might even say it was riddled with countless problems, fragile to the touch. Died restore her chi and blood. But she was short on money. In the past, she had stored quite a bit of gold on the O Continent, so many years had gone by. The banks back then might have closed down by now, and she wondered if her gold was still there. Ying Zijin pondered for a moment, then asked, "Any fun places in Shanghai City?" "There's plenty." Enai Chao, rising tipsy, belched, "You've been here for so long. Haven't you gone out to have fun? A living blood bank probably doesn't have such a thing as freedom." She said. Enai Chao was once again left speechless. "Kid, drink this." Fu Yunshan handed the girl a bowl of long and red dates up. After seeing her take it, he settled back into the bamboo chair. "In the past year, how many times has Ying Lui been injured?" Enai Chao was taken aback for a moment, then counted. Just the visits to the hospital alone, no less than 10 times. As soon as he said it, even he was startled. It was well known throughout Shanghai City that Ying Lui suffered from hemophilia. Hence, the socialites and rich young men were all extra melancholy with her. Being the fiancée of Zhao Moyun, skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, she was adored by the elders of the 4 major noble families. They wouldn't dare to touch her. So how could she have suffered so many injuries? Enai Chao tentatively asked. "Boss, you couldn't have also given her that many transfusions." The words were on the tip of his tongue, but he didn't continue. Who could withstand more than 10 blood transfusions? Ying Zijin slowly finished her long and date soup, squinted her phoenix eyes, and appeared indifferent. Not just that many. The vitality of this body was exhausted when she had awakened, and it had only recovered a little by now, which showed just how weak it had become. Pretty good." Fu Yunshan raised his hand, passing at his to the girl, and chuckled softly, his voice tender. She could be nominated for the Guinness World Records. Enai Chao broke out in a cold sweat again. He and Fu Yunxian had known each other since childhood and were deeply aware of his temperament. When the young master spoke with such a gentle tone, it meant that he was truly angry. But what could be done about it? The Ying family had taken in a foster daughter, spoiled her with good food and drink, all for that bit of blood, right? They had long been accustomed to the darkness within wealthy families. There were even dirtier deeds than this. And Nai Chao sighed, called over a server, and eagerly offered, "Boss, eat more. This event, young master, is right. You need to replenish your blood well." Ying Zijin stared at her plate, which she had only just cleared, and was again piled high with pig liver. At this, Momio WNO 11C001 non-pen 110N1E1 Ice NNO Re1 footsteps sounded as a group of people walked in. At the forefront was a man, tall and straight, his long and powerful legs encased in black suit pants. His face was cold, his brows and eyes sharp, his entire being exuded an aloof nobility, yet possessed a lethal charm of a mature man. Even the servers at Han Pavilion couldn't help but become somewhat solemn upon seeing the newcomer. This face, no one in Shanghai City would fail to recognize. Third master of the Jiang family, Jiang Moyun, the primary heir to one of the four major noble families, a man who combined looks, status, and power. The man that socialites in Shanghai City wished to marry. The manager came forward, respectful but not subservient. "CEO Jiao, your reserved seat is this way. Please follow me." Jiao Moyun nodded and began to walk inside. But just then, his secretary, who was following behind, suddenly stepped forward, whispered, "Third master." After speaking, he pointed in a certain direction. Jiao Moyun furrowed his brows, but still turned his head and looked in the direction the secretary was pointing, his gaze suddenly darkening. The slender girl sat in the bamboo chair, tilting her head, seemingly in the midst of something, her expression very resistant. And the person sitting next to her, he recognized as well. Fu Yunxian, the prodigal son of the Fu family, notorious for his less than stellar reputation. Having been sent abroad for 3 years, he seemed to have made no progress at all. Thinking of something, Jiang Moyun's frown deepened further, and he strode off, leaving the people following behind him exchanging glances. These people were clients of the Jiang Corporation, and they somewhat understood Jiang Moyun's disposition. Third Master Jiang of Shanghai City, whose feelings were always kept hidden. What could have made him show a change in expression? The third master has gone to discipline a disobedient younger relative and will return afterwards. The secretary apologized. "Please take your seats first."